Welcome to the introduction tutorial of TypeDB. We all know how modeling is done in graph databases. For example, look at the image. A person works for a company. So we will have two nodes, one person and another node, the company. And these nodes will have a property, name, and a relationship, employee of, will be created between the person and the company. However, TypeDB differs from this approach. Let's look at how the same model is envisioned within TypeDB. This is what they have done in TypeDB. There are three things namely have. One is entity, another is a relation, and third is an attribute. Now this is how it is defined. They define in TypeDB both person and the company are defined as entities. There is a relationship called employment between the two, and the role employer is assigned to the company and the employee is assigned to the person. And the attribute name is created independently, and both person and company own this attribute. Both of them have this attribute name. And this is how the syntax goes, the schema definition. What is the difference in modeling using this kind of approach? We'll just get this started with a sample schema. Download and install TypeDB. Create a sample schema, insert data, and retrieve the data to get the introduction started. And later on, you will see the type keyword, the query language used within TypeDB, and do a comparison between TypeDB and the conventional graph approach using the Cipher query language SQL, and also do a couple of case studies. To see how TypeDB can be used to implement type-safe relationships and particularly provide us better results when it comes to creating knowledge graphs. So we'll get this started. To start, go to the download section of the website vertical.com. You will see TypeDB as well as TypeDB Studio. Encourage you to download the open source version of TypeDB as well as TypeDB Studio. Once you download, these are the two things you will get. TypeDB all Windows -2.11.1 zip file, and also get the installer for TypeDB Studio. Install the installer and extract the TypeDB all Windows.2.11.1 zip file. And once you extract, this is what you will have under the extracted folder. So go to the DOS prompt and simply type TypeDB space server to get this TypeDB up and running. Then come to the TypeDB Studio. And click on the connect to TypeDB. And here you have to specify localhost :1729 and say connect. I have already connected to the TypeDB, and this is the instance I have. And once you go to the TypeDB, you can click on this button to create a new database. This is the dialog will come. I have already created the database, IntroTypeDB. You'll have to give the database name and say click on the create button. And once you create the database, right, you will see that the database gets listed here, and you can choose a database. And besides that, right, I have created a project, IntroTypeDB, and these are the various files that I have. Now, let's go and look at what the sample schema that we want to create. for TypeDB. This is the sample schema that we want to create. We have individuals. Various individuals who call each other. Okay. And the services, calling services are provided by the company. So the person becomes a customer for the company. And every time a person makes a call to the another person, you have two attributes. At what time the call starts and how long the call went. So the start date and the duration. And every person has the following attributes: the first name, last name, phone number, city, and age. Look at the diagram one more time. So we have the company which provides cell phone services. A person is a customer for the company, and the relationship between the two is the contract. And a person can call another person. So call is another relationship, and the individual plays the role of a caller as well as a receiver, or the caller and the callee. And every call, the relationship has a duration and a start date. And similarly, the entity person has the following attributes: first name, last name, phone number, city, and age. The company doesn't have an attribute as of now. So let's go and see how the schema looks like and how we can create the schema. You can pick up the code from the GitHub window URL I have shared along with this video, or you can also go and look at the page in the docs.vertical.com phone call schema page. And this is how the schema is defined. First, we are defining all the attributes: the name, start date, duration, first name, last name, phone number, city, age, everything. And then we are creating another relationship. Okay, the relationship is a contract between the company and the customer or the person. And similarly, call is another relation that actually relates the caller and the receiver, and it has two attributes: start date and the duration. Then we also have a mutual caller to indicate now A calls B as well as B calls A. And finally, we also have the attribute company. Sorry, we also have the entity company, and which acts as the contract provider. It has a name. And similarly, the person is another entity, and it is actually playing the customer in the contract for the contract relationship. It also plays the caller as well as the receiver relationship for the call. And these are the attributes it has: first name, last name, phone number, city, and age. So now to create the schema, what I have to do is I will have to click on the schema here, and I will have to click on the right. Okay, this has to be set. Every time you run a query within the TypeDB Studio, you have to choose what is the nature of the transaction. In this case, actually, we are going to create a schema. Therefore, we should choose schema and write and click on the execute button. Run query. And once you execute, right, the transaction will be triggered. And after executing the run button, you have to click on the tick mark symbol to commit the transaction. And once you do that, you will see that the following attributes are created, the following entities are created, and following relationships are created. So we have successfully completed the first step wherein we have created the schema. Next is how we want to insert the data. Next is we will see how the data can be inserted using the insert data.tqr. So first we are inserting the value for the company, telecom, and then later on we are inserting the values for the person. We are supplying the phone number, first name, last name, and all our attributes. And this is how we are inserting the call relationship. You specify who is calling, and now his phone number, and you also specify the receiver's phone number. And once you do that, right, once you insert call, you also specify the attributes: at what time the call started and how long the call went. So again, now we are going to insert data. Therefore, we should change the transaction from schema to data and write. Once you click on the data write, you can click on the run button and enter the data. And once you run this insert data DQL, you have to click on the tick symbol so that the data gets committed. Once you do both, right, now we have created the schema as well as we have insert data. Let us go and check how we can retrieve the data from here. So this is the first query that I want to write. Now I have to click on the data as well as read. Okay, so now I am just typing a generic SQL statement, match $x user 3, which means that I would like to see all the entities, attributes, and the relationships. So I simply click on the run button. Since this is a huge graph, it takes a couple of while. So this is the first graph we get. Okay, now what I want to do is I would like to find out who is a customer with a first name Melly and retrieve the phone number and the last name for the same customer. Now, if you go and see the insert data.tql, this is the customer Melly and last name is Wincham and this is a phone number. So I go into testquery.tql. So here what I have to do is I have to specify what the entity is. So I specify with the variable. Match at customer is a person. Person is the entity and the variable name is at customer. Okay. And so that right, once the person is found by the type DB, the particular person entity would be assigned to the variable customer. How do I find the particular customer? I am giving the filter class has first name Melly. So it will search for all the entities person and retrieve the person entity with the first name Melly. And I would like to retrieve the phone number as well as the last name. So I am taking the phone number as well as the last name, the other two attributes, and assigning it to $phone number and $last name. So once I execute this particular line, what will happen is the type DB will retrieve all the persons who are the first name Melly and get their phone number into the variable at phone number, get their last name into the variable at last name. And when I say get at phone number and at last name, it will return the phone name, phone number, and the last name. So now I go and execute this query. So I get the phone number, I get the last name, and if you look at the log, this is what I get. Match query successfully matched concepts in the database. Phone number, this is the phone number, and Wincham, this is the last name. So you can look at the insert data. This is the last name, and this is the phone number. So now in this example, we have seen how to download TypeDB, how to download TypeDB Studio, how to connect to TypeDB from TypeDB Studio, create a new database, create a schema, insert data, and retrieve the data with a sample query. In the subsequent tutorials, we will see more on how to create the schema and the query language, type query language. Then subsequently, a comparison between the type query language as well as the SQL. That's a key, most important subject we'll have to see is the comparison between the proper database like TypeDB as well as the graph databases. This is what we'll have to see in the subsequent tutorials. The difference between the TypeDB as well as the sorry, I'm in the wrong page, sorry. Yeah, this is what we'll have to see, comparing the TypeDB to the other property graph databases and how in terms of modeling, TypeDB offers better implementation of better relationships and how it makes querying easy. This we will see next after we look at now the TypeDB schema creation and TypeSQL language. We can come back and do a comparison between the regular graph databases and the approach used by TypeDB, and later on do a couple of case studies and take this list of tutorials to completion. Thank you. All the links that are shown in this video are provided in the description. Please refer the same. Thank you.